If two or more persons in any state or territory are in any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States conspire to overthrow, put down, or to destroy by force the government of the United States, or to levy war against them, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or to force to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force to seize, take, or possess any property of the United States, contrary to the authority thereof, they shall each be fined not more than $5,000 and imprisoned not more than 6 years. There are others that actually were updated. I get it. That's a 1948.
This one says not more than 20 years or both.
Now, of course, it was updated in 1994, and it updated it, Frank, to 20 years. And so, Frank, you look at the language. Let's put it up one more time. You look at the language, Frank, and you tell me how these people who were breaking into the Capitol, who are now whimpering and whining when they're being taken off of airplanes, they don't understand that they've committed treason against the United States of America, that they are involved in a seditious conspiracy by force, hinder, delay the execution of any law of the United States. But, Frank, that's the thing. This wasn't just any law. This was actually one of the cornerstones of the United States Constitution. This was the part of the Constitution that separated us from every other country in the world. John Adams did it first in 1800 when he voluntarily walked away from the presidency after he lost. He didn't seize power. It shocked countries across the world that this grand new constitutional republic would have a peaceful transfer of power. And so there it was, written in the United States Constitution, to guarantee that peaceful transfer of power. And this was the date that the Constitution set that our representatives, our elected representatives, were to count the electoral votes as required by the Constitution of the United States. And those people on those screen, I'm sorry, I'm a simple country lawyer, but even I can figure out that is a conspiracy to commit sedition against the United States of America. Please tell me where I'm wrong, and please tell me, if I am not wrong, why the hell these people shouldn't be charged by federal prosecutors to the fullest extent of the law and be sent to prison for 20 years.
When Donald Trump sent his supporters to the Capitol. These are the people who apparently believed every Trump lie, beginning with the lies about Barack Obama's birth in 2011, including the lies about Mexico paying for the wall, and the last lie that Donald Trump told those people on Wednesday.
After this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness.
He lied. And that is the ultimate coward's lie. The let's go. And then he doesn't go. He sent those people up there, some of them to their deaths with no intention of going himself. And now Donald Trump will never be allowed to set foot in the Capitol again. Never. Unless he insists on testifying in his own defense in his Senate second impeachment trial. What you see Jason Crow doing in this photograph is letting his friend Susan Wild and others around him feel protected, because Jason Crow knows what to do in that situation, because Jason Crow is going to defend them against the invaders. That's the personal drama captured in that photograph.
Today is the day American patriots start taking down names and kicking ass.
The whole world is watching, folks. If you just roll over, if you don't fight,
We will not go quietly into the night.
Let's have trial by combat.
Have the courage to do the right thing. Fight.
If you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
We want you to go home. I'm recording, and there's so many people. It's just, they're going to push their way up here. Bro, I see people out there get hurt. I don't want to see you get hurt. We will make a path dead ass. Like, we don't want. That's what I'm saying. We'll make a path, bro. Please, just let us make a path. Just let us make a path. When the whole country hates you. I want you to go home. Go. Let's go. Get this shit.
Watch closely here at that arched doorway where the rioters drag out an officer defending the Capitol. They bend down and pull him down the stairs, and they start beating him. Keep an eye on the left side of your screen for the bearded man in a gray jacket. He stands above the officer wielding the American flag, and he beats him with it, repeatedly bringing it down on him. Beating an officer with an American flag. Because there have been no official briefings about what happened on Wednesday, we don't know who that officer is, or what condition he or she is now in, or just how many incidents like this one captured here on camera there were amidst the mayhem and the violence in the sprawling Capitol complex. We do know that the rioters came prepared for action, for this kind of action. A Capitol police officer who fought off the mob last week told BuzzFeed, quote, "That was a heavily trained group of militia terrorists that attacked us. They had radios, we found them. They had two-way communicators and earpieces. They had bear spray. They had flashbangs." This unsettling video shows a group of men in military-style gear, wearing helmets and body armor, methodically making their way in formation up the Capitol steps. ProPublica and PBS identify them as members of a far-right militia group called the Oath Keepers. We're learning more the efforts to bring the rioters who committed crimes to justice. The Secretary of the Army told a Democratic congressman that at least 25 domestic terrorism cases have been opened as a result of the assault on the Capitol, of hanging people they saw as traitors. This was a lynch mob, the ones that made it up to the Capitol. When they made it inside the Capitol, you can hear the rioters chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," over and over. At least someone in the crowd constructed what appears to be a functional gallows near the Capitol reflecting pool. This was no papier-mâché prop. Someone went to a lot of work here. They brought lumber. They built steps up to a platform, complete with a noose. Friday night, we showed you this disturbing video from Status Coup taken at one entrance to the Capitol, in which the violent mob crushes against police as they try to gain entrance. Later in that same video, the insurrectionists can be heard trying to convince Capitol Police to do their bidding, to join them in attacking members of Congress that they are convinced are traitors.
Don't step any further. You need to arrest them. You guys know this. You do the right thing. You do the right thing. We don't want to hurt you guys. Are you okay? Are you okay? Get your breath.
Here's the thing. These people were one part of a broader effort engaged in by Donald Trump, the President of the United States, right-wing media, members of the United States House of Representatives and Senate, all together to overthrow the democratically elected government of this country, the incoming one. Flatly an act of sedition. The death toll from Wednesday's rampage stands at 5. Police officer was killed. There's now an active homicide investigation into who murdered him, who the accomplices might be in that murder. The scale of evil that might have been done, the scale of death and destruction that might have been visited is almost impossible to comprehend. What would have happened if they had gotten to Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or Mike Pence, do you think? And this was unleashed by the president in no uncertain terms. Let's go back. On December 19th, Donald Trump tweeted, "Big protest in D.C. on January 6th. Be there. Will be wild." Speakers at that protest on Wednesday riled up the crowd. Rudy Giuliani called on them to settle the election via trial by combat. Republican Congressman Mo Brooks of Alabama said it was time to start, quote, taking down names and kicking ass. And then Donald Trump spoke to his supporters and laid it all on the table.
We're going to have to fight much harder, and Mike Pence is going to have to come through for us. And if he doesn't, that will be a sad day for our country. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
You hear that threat to Mike Pence? He's going to have to come through for us. A mob that went on to breach the Capitol and searched for Mike Pence, saying they wanted to hang him. Well, at the same time that Donald Trump tweeted that Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done, they were roaming through that Capitol. Republican Senator Ben Sasser of Nebraska reported that Trump was delighted by the chaos as it unfolded at the Capitol. And the Washington Post reports the Pentagon stood in the way of the National Guard being sent in to help. The president incited and facilitated a violent assault on Congress that resulted in 5 deaths, including the death of a Capitol Hill police officer. He must face legal consequences for those actions. Even though very few people were arrested on that day, we do know that some of the marauders and insurrectionists are now being apprehended by law enforcement, like this gentleman who put his feet up at a desk in Nancy Pelosi's office, and this West Virginia elected Republican delegate who live streamed on Facebook as he joined the mob storming through the Capitol. He was not the only professional Republican politician who was there. Here's former Pennsylvania congressional candidate Rick Saccone, who you may remember as the guy who lost a special election in 2018 in a district Trump won by 20 points, also posting on Facebook about storming the Capitol. But tonight, more than 48 hours after that mob stormed the Capitol, we still haven't gotten a full briefing from the Capitol Hill police on what the hell happened and who was injured and who was hospitalized and how. Everyone is piecing this together from reporting and video, and it's hard to put the full picture together. Nancy Pelosi has tonight issued an ultimatum to President Donald Trump: resign or face impeachment proceedings for incitement of insurrection starting Monday. Quote, "It is the hope of members the president will immediately resign. But if he does not, I have instructed the Rules Committee to be prepared to move forward with Congressman Jamie Raskin's 25th Amendment legislation and a motion for impeachment. Accordingly, the House will preserve every option, including the 25th Amendment, a motion to impeach, or a privileged resolution for impeachment." Democratic lawyer Mark Elias, who thwarted Trump's every post-election legal challenge, explains that a privileged resolution for impeachment suggests that bringing impeachment directly to the floor without any committee activity is on the table. It would move on a very fast track. Two things to note here are that no president has ever been impeached twice, and should Trump be successfully impeached and removed, which is an if, he would be, it would appear, barred from holding federal office going forward. This push for impeachment comes as Trump's support among Senate Republicans appreciably erodes. Nebraska's Ben Sass saying he would definitely consider any articles the House passes. Alaska's Lisa Murkowski flat out calling for Trump to resign immediately. In fact, threatening to switch sides in the Senate. And multiple senators are also calling for their colleagues, Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz, to resign as well for their roles in urging on the agenda and inciting the mob attack on the Capitol. And if you think Pelosi's bluffing about Trump leaving, today she said she spoke with the chair of the Joint Chiefs about, quote, preventing an unstable president from initiating military hostilities or accessing the launch codes and ordering a nuclear strike. Meanwhile, Twitter has also heard enough from the president, saying they have, quote, permanently suspended Trump's account due to the risk of further incitement of violence. The big question now is what legal steps can be taken as quickly as possible in the next 12 days, which could be 12 of the most dangerous days the country has ever faced. As the chair of the Democratic caucus in the House, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries in New York has been privy to the impeachment discussions today, and he joins me now. Congressman, explain to me what the message of the speaker is today and what timeline are we talking about here?
Well, the message of the speaker and the broad consensus amongst the House Democratic caucus is that the president needs to be removed immediately because he presents a clear and present danger to the safety and security of the American people and the health of our democracy. That should be obvious to everyone at this particular point in time, given the violent insurrection that he just incited. Now, we're exploring the different ways to bring that about. There are really three different pathways. There's impeachment, of course, conviction and removal. There's the 25th Amendment, and we're going to move forward, as I understand it, with Jamie Raskin's legislation, which is important because that would expedite our capacity to avoid having to go through the cabinet to allow Mike Pence to take over the reins of the executive branch. And then there's resignation. There are growing calls for it, whether this is a president who is willing to accept reality. That's probably an eventuality that will be difficult to bring about.
I want to talk about this 25th Amendment aspect because I actually don't quite understand it legally. 25th Amendment, and I believe that it's the fourth section of that amendment, which is quite complicated, which has to do with the possibility of a president being incapacitated. Now, the thing that it contemplates, I think, most obviously is, say, the president's in a coma, or, you know, he is on life support or something like that. In this case, it would be the declaration of its incapacitation against his wishes, more or less. And there is a stipulation, I believe, in that section that it's the cabinet or such body as Congress constitutes, and that the idea here is that you would constitute said body under Jamie Raskin's legislation. Am I following that correctly?
That's exactly correct, because otherwise, in order to change an amendment, you've got to go through 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate. The president has to sign it into law, and 3/4 of the states have to ratify it. That's not going to happen. That's hard to happen under normal circumstances. And so because the 25th Amendment does say, or such other body that Congress may constitute by law, that gives us an opening to form a commission that Jamie Raskin has set forth in his legislation, which essentially would be a 17-member commission where you would have 8 members of the medical profession, 4 doctors and 4 psychiatrists appointed by the 4 different legislative leaders. Then you would have an additional 8 former high-ranking members of the executive branch, which could include a former president, vice president, secretary of state, secretary of treasury, secretary of defense, and so on. 4 would be appointed by Republicans, 4 would be appointed by Democrats. That would be a total of 16 members of the commission, and then they would select the 17th. We could constitute that commission, and then if a majority of them, as opposed to having to go through the cabinet, determined that the president was incapable of performing his duties, then the 25th Amendment could be invoked in our view.
Okay, that's an untested constitutional theory. I'm not saying you're wrong. Obviously, look, the most straightforward thing would be the president to tender his resignation. I think we all agree on that. And I don't think that the president wants to do that, although the one argument one could make to the president is that while self-pardoning is very questionable legally, it is the case that presumably Mike Pence could pardon him, and perhaps that would be an inducement for the president to resign. I can't see any other inducement in the next 12 days, and I just don't think he could be trusted with power in the next 12 days. So barring this 25th Amendment, barring resignation, impeachment, there's articles today which I want to read from, drafted by Raskin, Liu, and Cicilline, that Donald John Trump engaged in high crimes and misdemeanors by willfully inciting violence against the government of the United States. I guess the question to you is, how quickly can you move that to the floor?
Well, we took an important step today to go in that direction because the Speaker needed to constitute the Rules Committee, which she did and was ratified by the caucus. With the Rules Committee constituted, Jim McGovern, who's the chair, could immediately or at such time as appropriate over the next few days convene the Rules Committee, which could take up a privileged resolution, which would allow us to move on impeachment without having to go through the traditional committee approach. Now, under ordinary circumstances, Chris, a privileged resolution would be tabled or sent to the committee of jurisdiction, in this case, judiciary. These aren't ordinary circumstances. In my view, insurrection, sedition, treachery, incited by the president is the classic extraordinary circumstance that would justify a privileged resolution on impeachment.
I want to read to you something that Kevin McCarthy said, the highest ranking member of the House of the Republican Party. Now, this is an individual who, after a marauding mob of seditionists riled up by the president, took over your offices in the Capitol and led to the death of a Capitol police officer, smashed windows, and ransacked the place. After that happened, when you came back in, Kevin McCarthy voted against seating the rightfully elected electors to make Joe Biden the president. He voted against that. This is what he says about impeachment. To deliver a better America for all, partisans of all stripes must first unite as Americans and show our country that a peaceful transition of power has occurred. Impeaching the president with just 12 days left in his term will only divide our country more. What's your reaction to that?
Kevin McCarthy is not just a joke at this point. He's a caricature of a joke. And his rhetoric and his behavior and his activity over the last several days have been the height of irresponsibility. He has no interest in doing anything other than continuing to lick the boots of Donald Trump. That's what he has been doing. For whatever reason, he's made the determination that that is his pathway toward leadership, because he's got so many out-of-control members of the House Republican Conference who continue to peddle conspiracy theories. And on the floor of the House of Representatives, Kevin McCarthy was right there voting with them.
For the last several weeks, and years for that matter, many in the Republican establishment here in Washington fed and nurtured a monster that was growing in their midst. Conspiracy theories, white supremacy, nationalism, violent political rhetoric, and the bastardization of the Constitution. They tried to harness the power of this monster, insisting that it wasn't actually a monster at all, as if our eyes were just deceiving us, even as the monster grew out of control in clear view. Well, yesterday, that monster overcame those Republicans. Trump supporters stormed the Capitol. They injured several police officers. They threatened the safety of the vice president and the entire Senate and the entire House, as well as the thousands of staffers and journalists who work there, while Congress was certifying Joe Biden's Electoral College win. 4 people died. The Capitol Police say an officer shot one woman as protesters were seen on video attempting to break a door down inside the building, and police are investigating that. And now many Republicans are trying to rewrite history to cover their asses, like Senator Josh Hawley, one of the ringleaders of this coup attempt. Missouri's junior senator became the first to object to Joe Biden's win. His basis for doing so? Lies and conspiracy theories. Shortly before the attack, he appeared for a photo op for his expected 2024 run for president, raising a fist outside the Capitol to Trump supporters there. There he is. The same Senator Hawley who the night before appeared on Fox to say how furious he was that liberal protesters showed up outside of his home with bullhorns.
This Antifa group now says, oh, it was a candlelight vigil. We were singing songs, like it's a church choir or something, with bullhorns, screaming at my wife, demanding, come out, pounding on our door. This is unbelievable. The bottom line is, Laura, nobody should have this happen to them. If it can happen to my family, it can happen to any family in America.
Now, he tweeted that, quote, we're not going to sit back and take it. And you can imagine how upsetting it would be to have protesters show up at your house, right? He said he wasn't home, but his wife was with their newborn and she was shaken. But during the siege on the Capitol, Hawley blasted out a fundraising appeal to supporters. And then after the attack, he continued his attempt to overturn a Democratic election, going on his merry way, like an attack on the Capitol that made the protest at his house look quaint. Didn't just happen.
This is the place where those objections are to be heard and dealt with, debated, and finally resolved in this lawful means, peacefully, without violence, without attacks, without bullets. And so, Mr. President, let me just say now briefly, in lieu of speaking about it later, a word about Pennsylvania.
Senator Ted Cruz, another architect of the coup attempt, he stood before a crowd in Georgia over the weekend and said this.
I am inspired. Each of you look around, the men and women that are gathered here. You are patriots, just like the patriots gathered at Bunker Hill, just like the patriots gathered at Valley Forge, just like the patriots who forged this nation. The men and women gathered here and across the state of Georgia are fighting for the United States of America.
Bunker Hill, Valley Forge, fighting for the fate of the United States of America. When domestic terrorists were inspired to storm the Capitol like a scene out of Braveheart, here's how they explained it to CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan and Ellie Reeve.
I'm excited that for 1776, the We the People movement is moving forward.
One man I talked to had pushed through the barricades and described the police macing them and him fighting back. And I was like, what's the point? And he said, what's the point? Like, this is our only choice. This is the only option we have. The Supreme Court doesn't have our backs. This is 1776.
Now, where would they have gotten that idea? maybe from Ted, who me couldn't be Cruz, who made a fundraising pitch during the attack that his office later blamed on an outside firm. Ted Cruz, who said this after the attack.
But I would urge to both sides perhaps a bit less certitude and a bit more recognition that we are gathered at a time when democracy is in crisis. Recent polling shows that 39% of Americans believe the election that just occurred, quote, was rigged.
No duh, because leaders like Cruz are spoon-feeding them lies that the election was rigged and urging them to fight the result by comparing the rejection of Joe Biden's win in the year 2020 to opposing British rule during the American Revolutionary War. Then there's outgoing Senator Kelly Loeffler, who just the night before lost her runoff election against Senator-elect Raphael Warnock. She, too, was objecting to Joe Biden's win, planning to challenge it on the Senate floor. But after the attack, she backed off.
I cannot now in good conscience object to the certification of these electors.
24 hours earlier, when she still had a political future, she fueled the opposition to Biden's win.
On January 6th, I will object to the Electoral College vote. That's right.
And then there is Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the president's most famous apologists and enablers. Here he is speaking on the floor after the attack.
From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see, all I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful.
He's out, huh? 13 days to go in the Trump administration, and now enough is enough? When the monster that he helped create threatened his life. But hold up, wait a minute, because as Lindsey Graham came to Jesus on the extent to which he would endure this non-presidential behavior from the president yesterday, he also tried to rewrite history, lambasting voter fraud claims from the Trump campaign.
They say there's 66,000 people in Georgia under 18 voted. How many people believe that? I asked, give me 10. I hadn't had one. They said 8,000 felons in prison in Arizona voted. Give me 10. I hadn't gotten one.
That would be commendable from a senator who had not allegedly called up Georgia's Republican Secretary of State to pressure him to find ways to exclude or invalidate legally cast absentee ballots in an attempt to reverse Trump's loss in Georgia. Now, that claim from the state's Republican Secretary of State sparked an ethics complaint, but Graham says the claim is ridiculous and he just wanted to know more about signature verification. And then there's the conspiracy theory that is out there right now in right-wing circles that it wasn't actually Trump supporters who perpetrated this attack. Yeah, that is what is being talked about in right-wing media right now. And they're getting an assist from some of the most powerful Republican lawmakers in Washington as they try to blame liberal extremists for the failed coup at the Capitol.
People came here to do some damage. I don't know who they're with, but they came here to do some damage.
We knew this big crowd was coming, right? We knew they were coming. We knew, whether Antifa was in there or not, we'll find out more.
That was the House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, breathing life into the conspiracy theory that this was a false flag operation, leftists pretending to be Trump supporters storming the Capitol, even though it was the president who summoned these crowds to D.C., who spoke at their rally, who offered to walk them over to the Capitol and then defended them after the attack. Many of the people shown in video entering the Capitol were Trump supporters who appear publicly a lot, which makes them easily identifiable. The guy with the horns and the hat with the fur who got to the Senate floor, that is a known QAnon conspiracy theorist and Trump supporter. Capitol Police released his photo. They say that he's a person of interest that they want to talk to as part of their probe. Then this guy in Nancy Pelosi's office with his feet up on her desk is a Trump supporter who leads a gun rights group in Arkansas. And there are so many others. One of the most well-known conservative activists who is critical of Antifa told the right-leaning Washington Examiner that the perpetrators did not look like Antifa, and he didn't think Antifa was capable of organizing on that scale, and that there had been no chatter about Antifa's involvement, which there would be if they were involved. But sure, Leader McCarthy and Fox, Antifa. Next, there's Senator James Lankford. He's a Trump loyalist among the senators who were planning to object. In fact, he was on the floor speaking when the Senate was evacuated. But after the siege, he backpedaled, saying this.
In Oklahoma, we'd say something like, why in God's name would someone think attacking law enforcement and occupying the United States Capitol is the best way to show that you're right? Why would you do that?
Why, Senator, would they do that? If you weren't paying attention to what was happening in Washington yesterday morning, if you were willfully ignorant of what was going on just down Pennsylvania Avenue, of the huge gatherings that were making travel to and from the Capitol, where Senator Lankford was difficult, it might be a decent question. Not far from the Hill, the president's lawyer was saying this to the angry crowd just before their attack.
And if we're wrong, we will be made fools of. But if we're right, a lot of them will go to jail. So let's have trial by combat.
This morning, Giuliani tried acting like he is stunned by what happened, called the riot shameful, criminal, and he tried to play whataboutism with liberals, his logic melting as quickly as sprayed-on hair on a warm day in Philadelphia. But his client, the president, was of course the chief instigator here. He called them to Washington to demonstrate. He spoke at the rally knowing that he was appearing before a crowd that included a large contingent of white supremacists and extremists. He had lied to his supporters for years, and as he told them to move on the Capitol, he told them another lie, that he would be going with them.
And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
He said, quote, "I will be there with you." He said those words in front of a bulletproof piece of glass. He told his supporters to, quote, "fight like hell to overturn an election." And then, as Trump's army of supporters marched to Capitol Hill to confront his enemies, Trump got back in his hermetically sealed armored limousine, and he drove literally in the opposite direction, returning to the safety of the White House, where he watched it all go down on TV. White House staffers who probably thought that they had seen it all by this point were visibly shaken by President Trump's response, according to CNN's Caitlin Collins. Trump was, quote, borderline enthusiastic over the siege of the Capitol, and he didn't want to condemn the perpetrators, according to multiple sources. Trump's Republican enablers, they have blood on their hands, and they want to pretend they had no idea this could happen. They seem baffled that the monster they nurtured and stroked turned on them. They've sold their souls. For what? For ambition. And they act like they don't know that when you sell your soul, at some point, there is a debt to settle.
Now, Republicans are cautious. Most prefer to run out the clock and say another impeachment would only deepen the nation's political wounds. But there are Republicans who say the president must be held accountable. Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska is one.
He was flagrantly disregarding his oath of office. So that's not in debate. The House, if they come together and have a process, I will definitely consider whatever articles they might move. What he did was wicked.
Republican sources are telling CNN there are more Republicans open to voting yes on impeaching and removing the president if the charges drafted by the Democrats are viewed as reasonable by Republicans. Now, the president today trying to blunt any Republican support for his removal. In a tweet, he warns his 75 million voters remain, quote, a giant voice in Republican politics, and says they best not be disrespected. The defiant tone there just hours after a much more subdued video that, yes, finally acknowledged Joe Biden's victory, but that aides say the president taped only to quash rumblings his cabinet was thinking about invoking the 25th Amendment.
Now Congress has certified the results. A new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th. My focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power.
The impeachment strategy call happening right now is just one consequential new piece of the rioting fallout. The effort to bring the rioters to justice now includes a federal murder investigation. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick died last night from injuries he sustained in that insurrection.
Ever to be impeached twice. House Democrats are drafting articles of impeachment, including one covering, quote, incitement of insurrection. The plans to introduce them on Monday, leading up to a vote later next week. Twitter, late today, permanently suspended the president's account, raising the question, will a social media platform in the end bring more accountability to this president than any sanction provided for in the Constitution? That would be, well, something. Late today, Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski became the first Republican senator to call on the president to resign over Wednesday's insurrection. She is, however, not in the mainstream for members of her party, many of whom, even among the GOP leadership, are now trying to sweep this all down the memory hole. People like House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who tweeted today, impeaching the president with just 12 days left will only divide our country more. Or Lindsey Graham, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee, he tweeted, as president, @Real Donald Trump stated last night, it is time to heal and move on, adding, it is up to President-elect Biden to step in and allow the nation to heal. Late today, the White House Deputy Press Secretary weighed in, quoting from his statement now, as President Trump said yesterday, this is a time for healing and unity as one nation. Politically motivated impeachment against a president with 12 days remaining in his term will only serve to further divide our great country. Which sort of misses the point, doesn't it? What happened this week couldn't be more serious. There need to be consequences for people involved. The mob trying to locate House Speaker Pelosi didn't really want to pose for selfies with her. Here's some video of them, which was posted on YouTube by Jaden X.
Bro, you don't want none, I guess.
Gray hair lady shouting, tell effing Pelosi we're coming for her, among other obscenities. It wasn't just Nancy Pelosi the rioters wanted. They also wanted Vice President Pence. A Reuters editor reports he heard, quote, at least 3 different rioters at the Capitol said they hope to find Vice President Mike Pence and execute him by hanging from a Capitol Hill tree, unquote. Some carried police restraints, zip ties, like this guy dressed in paramilitary gear inside the Senate chamber. And among the people arrested today was an Alabama man police say had a number of firearms in his vehicle, as well as 11 Molotov cocktails. Now, one of the protesters, as you know, was shot dead as the mob tried to break through a barricaded door. A Capitol police officer was beaten reportedly with a fire extinguisher. And what was the president doing as this insurrection was just getting started? Listen to Republican Senator Ben Sasse describe it to conservative talk radio host Hugh Hewitt.
As this was unfolding on television, Donald Trump was walking around the White House, confused about why other people on his team weren't as excited as he was, as you had rioters pushing against Capitol Police trying to get into the building. As it was happening, he was delighted.
Where anyone with a functioning soul would be revolted and disgusted or simply dismayed that his words unleashed such mayhem, Senator Sasse, a Republican, says the president was delighted. And according to a spokesman for Utah Senator Mike Lee, both the president and the husk of a human, once known as Rudy Giuliani, were also working the phones, trying to call newly elected Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville so they could press him to delay certification of the electoral vote. Think about that. As the mob was descending on the Capitol, making death threats to lawmakers there, the president was, at the very same moment, calling senators, trying to pressure them into keeping up his election con. Now, we know this because the calls mistakenly went to Senator Lee's cell phone, as he and others were sheltering in a temporary holding area. He then handed the phone, according to the reports, to Senator Tuberville. That's where the president's thoughts were as lawmakers and staffers tried just to survive the moment. because of course. Because no matter how many words he reads off the teleprompter about healing and unity and love, there's no room inside him for any of that. To him, those are all loser words, along with responsibility and accountability.
Justice footage and think about what happened as everyone terrorized by that day tries to move on or pick up the pieces or figure out what happened. What is so horrifying is the fact that all of these people, from Donald Trump at the very top down to the guy in that video with a gas mask on his head, they were all working towards the same end. After an election in which more than 156 million Americans voted, a record, and 7 million more people voted for Joe Biden than Donald Trump, and he got more than 270 electoral votes, making him the rightfully elected leader of the United States. All of those people, from Donald Trump on down to the guy in the gas mask, they were all together trying to do the same thing. They were trying to install the defeated man as the head of our government against the will of the American people via any means necessary. That is the project in which all of them were engaged, including a lot of prominent Republicans and conservative activists, from Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, who tweeted about sending 80 busloads of people to the Capitol on January 6th and later deleted that tweet, to Texas Congressman Pete Sessions, who tweeted on January 3rd about encouraging people from Stop the Steal to keep fighting, and that he was looking forward to doing his duty on January 6th. And a whole bunch of his colleagues, like Congressman Andy Biggs and Paul Gosar of Arizona and Kevin Brady of Texas and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and Senators Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and Rick Scott and John Kennedy, every last one of them, up to and including the president and the people around him, have engaged in the same plot in the open to seize power for the man who lost, the man that was repudiated by American voters and American democracy. And for all the talk about 1776 and the Don't Tread on Me Gadsden flags, it is those folks who are on the side of tyranny. They are on the side of a would-be crown. They are on the side of might over people power. They wanted to seize power from you, from us as democratic citizens. They wanted a small group of congressmen to take it away. That is what the Republican Party has now associated itself with, or in large part has become. Now, this country's been through trauma and disaster and war and civil war. And we have wrestled with treason and sedition and those who would seek to destroy American democracy, especially genuinely equitable, multiracial American democracy. We've fought those battles. The threat posed by these people, frankly, is as serious as anything we have seen at least since then. If there is not accountability for it, they will try again and will have a better chance of succeeding. And if there is any doubt that all these pieces were all working together towards the same end, then keep in mind, the president wanted the mob to go to the Capitol. He told them to go there so they could intimidate Congress out of counting electoral votes for his opponent, so they could spook Mike Pence into stealing it for him. And then, after they stormed the Capitol in this violent attack, after the beatings of the cops, and it came within minutes of possibly actually setting upon members of Congress themselves, and as they started to pick up the pieces with the blood still on the ground, this is what the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, was up to. This is Rudy Giuliani in a voicemail he left for Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, one of the president's most stalwart supporters, telling him to do whatever he can to further delay the counting of electoral votes.
Senator Tuberville, or I should say Coach Tuberville, this is Rudy Giuliani, president's lawyer. I'm calling you because I want to discuss with you how they're trying to rush this hearing and how we need you, our Republican friends, to try to just slow it down so we can get these legislatures to get more information to you. And I know they're reconvening at 8 tonight. But the only strategy we can follow is to object to numerous states and raise issues so that we get ourselves into tomorrow, ideally until the end of tomorrow.
Take a listen to think about what you just heard. The president's own lawyer. This is after the siege of the Capitol, after it's overrun, after they're cowering in a secure room so they don't get torn to shreds by the lynch mob, and they're reconvening to go do their constitutional duty. Rudy Giuliani, the president's lawyer, after all that, is calling, and he wants the Alabama senator to do whatever he can to pick up the baton from the mob. The mob did its job. It delayed things. Now you use your position as a U.S. senator to stop the peaceful transfer of power and the lawful recognition of the democratically elected president.
Today, the American Psychoanalytic Association said Donald Trump should be immediately removed from office. They said, "We have long believed that Trump is a dangerous leader, as evidenced by his encouraging right-wing extremists in Charlottesville, Portland, and Kenosha, and his behavior this week makes this apparent to all. The combination of his publicly evident psychopathology and the power of the office he holds constitutes a clear and present danger to the health and well-being of the nation and its people." And we are joined now by a member of the American Psychoanalytic Association, Dr. Lance Dotis, psychoanalyst and former assistant clinical professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. Dr. Dotis contributed to the book, The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. 37 psychiatrists and mental health experts assess the president. Dr. Dotis, you have been discussing this with me on this program for 4 years now. We really appreciate your input about this. What is your assessment of Donald Trump in these final days?
I think that you've said it exactly right, Lawrence. He hasn't changed, and that really was one of our main messages to begin with, that it's not about politics. It was never about politics. It's that this is a deeply disturbed man, a delusional psychopath who has been the same his whole adult life, and who we knew would get worse the more stress he was under, because that's what happens with people with this kind of severe disorder. So when Nancy Pelosi said that she was making sure that the nuclear button couldn't be pushed, that was very wise and made a lot of sense. It was not an overreaction in the slightest. And when she said he's unstable, absolutely, that is exactly the situation we're in and why he needs to be removed immediately, yesterday, really, because he is going to continue to get worse. And after he leaves office, he will continue to get worse. We will not see the end of him unless he's locked up.
The with the kind of addictive quality of Twitter, what does it mean to someone like Donald Trump to be banned from Twitter?
You know, it's interesting. The 88 million people, I think, was the number that he has as followers. They're not just supporters, and they're not just fans. From his standpoint, they're worshipers. He sees himself in his delusional belief as a god. And the people who support him worship him. He doesn't care at all about them, mind you, as we know. It's an entirely one-way street. But that number is meaningful to him. I think, as somebody said, it's more important to him that he keeps those 88 million than being impeached, because he doesn't really tolerate, he doesn't hear or know losses. If he's impeached, he will pass it off as yet another attack on him. And he would do that if he lost all the 88 million too. But he holds on to the things that he needs to believe, and the rest goes by him because he is unable to tolerate that reality.
Why will his condition worsen after he leaves the presidency and is living a life on a golf course waiting for his next appearance in court as a defendant?
Well, I think that's why. I think that to the extent that the reality sinks in to any degree, he's becoming more and more pressured. After all, you know, he is supposed to be the king of the universe from his standpoint. And the more he is not, the more it's evident that he's not, the more that he has to appear in court, or under the worst case for him, in prison, the harder it's going to be for him. And then it's not that he tolerates loss. He never becomes depressed about it. He becomes more delusional. So the risk of his having any power at all, or having access to firearms, for example, is increasing. The more desperate he becomes, the more delusional he is, the more he needs to prove to himself, ultimately, that he is still a god. So the less power he has, the more stress he's under, the more dangerous he is. And again, why he needs to be removed immediately.
College motherfuckers think y'all run everything. Motherfucker. What? Motherfucker. You owe me some money, motherfucker. What you motherfuckers talking about? Motherfucker, I eat everything. I eat the pussy, I eat the butt, I eat every motherfucking thing. Motherfucker, I'll chew his ass up. Motherfucker. You a smart motherfucker. English, motherfucker. Motherfucker. We're not gonna store the motherfucker. I'm on the motherfucker. I'm a mushroom cloud laying motherfucker. Ha. You're closed, motherfucker. Sewer rat may taste like pumpkin pie, but I never know because I wouldn't eat the filthy motherfucker. Motherfucker. It's the one that says bad motherfucker. That's my bad motherfucker. Goddamn motherfucker. The racist motherfucker. Motherfucker. Juice, what do you got out here? That's right, run, motherfucker. Motherfucker shit don't stink, mouseketeer looking motherfucker. Sit your motherfucking ass down. Bad motherfucker. Cause I'm a bad motherfucker. That's right! You can't kill me, motherfuckers! Bad motherfucking give me a motherfucking hug. Motherfucking this motherfucker. You a fine motherfucker. You know all them motherfuckers is crooked as a barrel of snakes, motherfucker. Motherfucker. Motherfucker hung up on me, motherfucker. Motherfucking. Freeze, motherfucker. No, motherfucker. Look at me when I'm talking to you, motherfucker. Motherfucker.
Come on, Critica Boys Band. Wechile olundi bana byakwende lwimbo lwa digital. Okumenya kolindi menya lya digital. Mufananisheko nende lya kale mulole kuti kabaka lyena muche. Bintu bijanjanga silone kumuzinywe. Bali abange. Kayomba boleleko. Bintu bijanjanga silone kumuzinywe. Nyweke muboleleko. Oya mukebulile. Bintu bijanjanga silone kumuzinywe. Yabagale.